Greetings, Dog Pound Nation. Welcome to the Two Green Browns podcast, part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. I'm John Cahallan, joined today by my good friend and fellow Irish Browns fan, Neil Dunworth. And Neil, a sad yet happy day today. For those who don't know just yet, this will be the last recording of the Two Green Browns podcast in its current format for the time being. We're parking it up for the time being. We're putting the Two Green Browns to bed today for a little while.
Putting it out to stud, John, I think is probably a better. We're putting it out to stud to try and fodder little other children podcasts.
That's a great analogy, Neil. For those of you who don't know, myself and Neil have decided to extend our tentacles a little bit and sort of get a little bit more creative with what we're doing. And all our content from Monday on is moving to the Cleveland Sports Collective. So you can find us there at Cle Sports Pod on Twitter. We're just getting that all up and running there now. We're going to be joined by another bunch of like-minded people, podcasters and contributors alike, who want to talk about Cleveland sports. So we have stuff lined up. We're going to have some fantasy content for sure. We're going to have the same content we're coming out with now. We're going to have a bit coming out on some Buckeye content. We're going to definitely have some Indians content and Cavs content on the way for sure at some point as well once basketball gets up and running. But for today, as I said, this is going to be our last hurrah in this format.
Yeah. So pull up a chair, pour out a glass, and we're going to have a little Irish wake over a bottle of whiskey to the Two Green Browns. We're just parking it up for a while. And the reason being is because, I suppose really there's just so many people who want to talk about Cleveland sports and are good at talking about Cleveland sports, and they're in Cleveland and we are in Ireland, and we want to just learn from so many of those guys and what they see on the ground. And sometimes you can kind of feel patronizing coming from Ireland, talking about a team that people in Cleveland know an awful lot about. And we're just basically so passionate, and we love the team. Like, there's no two ways about it. We love the Cleveland Browns. That's why we get up at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning here to do podcasts with certain people. And we said, why not extend it out? Why not chat to people on the ground? Why not get them involved and try and make something cool out of this? Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We just want to talk to Clevelanders about Cleveland sports and basically just soak up as much. As I say, I was in Cleveland last year and I bloody loved every second of it, and I just felt it was like my type of place. So it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. Can't wait for it. Yeah,
I'm looking forward in particular. I know I've been working on a little bit of fantasy content with our one of our new contributors, who Mr. Josh Brickner, and Josh is actually awesome at what he does. So I'm going to learn so much and pass that knowledge on. I said it's that kind of to keep doing the sports stuff and keeping Cleveland relevant and expanding our knowledge and expanding people's access to what we have. That's what it's all about. And if anyone's listening, and if anyone wants to get involved, if anyone wants to try their hand at coming on to do a podcast, to produce a podcast, to host a podcast, to contribute in any way, our door's open. And we sort of, at the moment, we listen to what anyone has to say and what anyone has to contribute. It's sort of the bit of a more the merrier kind of atmosphere going on at the moment. But anyhow, Neil, we'll actually get on and do a podcast. So today we haven't been speaking for a while, really, because there hasn't been a whole lot going on. But the news is starting to ramp up now at the moment. COVID designations, all the rage at the moment. The talk of the day, Jamie Gillan put on, Neil, I'm going to let you speak on these lists because you have a better understanding of these lists. He put it on the injured reserve COVID list, which means what, Neil?
Yeah, so there's 2 type of lists going out at the moment, and one is obviously the opt-out list. So players themselves have been given the option to opt out before the 3rd of August, which is this coming Monday. And what that means is you can actually opt out of playing this year. Your contract will toll, as far as I'm aware, into next year. And essentially, there's 2 types of designations that the league will give you, provided based on the reason that you provide for opting out. So this is one of the lists, and those 2 designations can be that you opt out just basically that you're an opt-out, that you do not wish to play the league this year, and you'll get 150 grand for that. If you opt out due to medical reasons because you're at a high risk, you're in the high risk category yourself, you'll get 350 grand. So as you can see, and as you guys will know, and we're coming a bit late on this, that there have been a lot of players around the league that have decided to opt out for various reasons. Most notably, I suppose, Michael Pearce, Nate Solder, Marquise Goodwin, Devin Funchess, just to name a few. That's just to name a few. So they've opted out. They've decided they are not going to play in the year of our Lord 2020 or 2021 up until the end of the Super Bowl. So they cannot come back off that list. They're done. They've taken themselves out of consideration for the whole year. The other list that is there is the COVID-19 list, and that is essentially a list that the team will put a player on should a player test positive for COVID-19 or be in the vicinity of somebody that is a known COVID-19 case. So this is something that the team will put the player on, and once they fulfill the parameters of quarantine, or once they fulfill the parameters of testing negative for a certain amount of days in a row, then they will be allowed back to rejoin the team. So at the moment, the Browns have actually 3 people on that COVID-19 list, with Dontrell Hilliard and Moffat, Javon Moffat, the undrafted free agent that they signed just after the draft. They were currently on it, and as of half an hour ago, I would say 30 minutes ago, we've heard that Jamie Gillen has been placed on this as well. Now, it's not known whether Jamie actually has the virus himself or whether he's just been in contact with somebody, but he has been placed on this and will have to quarantine and satisfy the return to play protocols. So just to make it known, is that our punter hasn't opted out for medical reasons that we know of. This is just something that he has been placed on by the actual club in accordance with the COVID-19 laws that have been agreed with the NFLPA, and in accordance, I suppose, with how the NFL wants to run the disease prevention as we go forward, I suppose, so that we can make sure that we do have football in the coming year. So I hope that made sense to people, and I hope it was clear and concise. But yes, Jamie Gillen, the most high profile of the Browns players to be placed on the COVID-19 list so far. We've actually had 2 opt-outs already as well. Might as well talk about those guys. So they are, and we don't know what designations they've been given, whether they are at high risk themselves or whether they've opted out due to the fact of not feeling safe playing. And that was Drew Forbes, Prospect X, from 2018's draft. He is dropped out, or opted out, should I say, which, to be honest with you, leaves us a small bit thin at right guard, provided that he would have been, or he probably would have been pushing Wyatt Teller for that position. But I do know that Bill Callahan has been effusive in his praise of Colby Gossett since he's come into the organization as well. And I know that there was conversations that maybe Colby Gossett might be somebody that they might look at to have a 3-way battle there as well. So from a positional point of view, it is unfortunate that Drew Forbes has opted out, but obviously, look, nobody comes in for criticism for opting out for this year, and he has done that. And the second guy is after escaping me. It's Dorbeck.
Drake Dorbeck.
Drake Dorbeck has opted out as well. Another free agent that we signed. A big hulking guy, actually, a really big hulking tackle. Another offensive lineman who has opted out as well. As I say, nobody gets any criticism from me, nor will they get any criticism at all from me for opting out. You got to do what you got to do, and we're in an unprecedented time. So I wish those 2 guys well, and I hope we see them back here again next year when this all passes over, and when we're in a position to be back to normal again, I suppose, and the things are safe to do so.
I suppose, Neil, just to further on what you're saying there, and I suppose to contradict you a little bit, I don't think just looking at the roster there, like, I don't think we're in a bad way at right guard. So we've Wyatt Teller, the presumptive starter there, really, at the moment.
Yeah.
We have a handful of guys then behind. Would it be insane to suggest Chris Hubbard?
No. That's why he played an awful lot there, that for the Steelers.
Willie Wright, a guy that, has hung around there the last year or so. Nick Harris, undersized, but in the right system, could challenge. Be interesting. I'd actually be really interested to see Nick Harris getting a bit of run there, because like he's not going to see a whole lot of the ball sitting behind JC Treader for the next year or two. But it'd be interesting, like I said, very undersized, but be interesting to see how that goes. So it's not, when I saw this list coming out, it wasn't something that concerned me overly when I saw
Well,
those names coming out.
no,
Dorbeck wasn't someone was expected to make the roster, really.
no, it wasn't. Drew Forbes, I did want, like, he could be in your swing interior guy, Drew Forbes, for certain. And look, while it doesn't really concern me because Wyatt Teller is the incumbent, Drew Forbes does have a lot of the skills and the techniques that could project towards being a very, very good right guard. You talk about Nick Harris and Willie Wright. Look, there's a golfing class there. You know, Willie Wright, we don't know anything of Willie Wright yet. You know, we certainly don't. And to be honest with you, Nick Harris is a rookie coming in. You know, I would prefer not to give him the Austin Corbett treatment of changing him around from position to position as he comes in as a rookie. I think he's going to predominantly live behind JC Treader, and he is our backup plan for JC Treader in a year or 2 years' time, when we may need to move on from him, from his contract as such. Now, obviously, look, he could be in the right guard battle, but you know, it's not really his position. He didn't really play it in college. He played a bit, only very, very slightly in college, but I think he'll be predominantly a center. But I think that we, in the weeds as well, and it kind of came out and wasn't really thoroughly, massively reported on, but Alex Boone, former Buckeye, left guard for the 49ers and left guard for the Arizona Cardinals, and also the Minnesota Vikings, who retired after the 2017 season. Now, granted, he's been out for 2 years. He did say that he would be interested in making a comeback, but if he was to make a comeback, it would only be with the Cleveland Browns. Now, in an abridged season, to get a 33-year-old player, yes, I know he hasn't been in the game for 2 years, but to get a 33-year-old player who has performed to the high level that Alex Boone has, and to slot him in at right guard, and if the opportunity presented itself at a vet minimum or just above it, I think would be pretty silly not to. Considering that we have everybody else under contract for quite a while, if we had that opportunity of getting a high performing left guard, even though he is a left guard, he could move to right guard. It could be something worth thinking about. If he was serious, who even knows if he was serious about coming back or not? But if he was, I think that solves an awful lot of issues for you.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's an interesting one in the mix there. If that were to be the case, at that point, Neil, when you start looking at the ins and outs here at the moment, have you taken a second to look at the Patriots COVID list?
Yeah, it's mental.
Right. So
Chung,
what I'm trying
Hightower.
Yeah. Have they found another loophole? They've gone from being the 25th worst cap space to the 10th.
Yeah, I think they have. And I think what they've done is they've saved money for next year, and they have also tanked the shit out of it to get a quarterback. Now, then again, Cam Newton isn't going to go in there and lose 15 games. Bill Belichick isn't going to want to go in there. Like, if Bill Belichick goes in and loses 15 games and goes 1-15 with the Patriots this year, and Tom Brady goes to the playoffs, that's going to boil Bill Belichick's piss, to be honest with you, because he's going to want to be seen as a guy who can win without Tom Brady. Now, everybody says this must be a master plan from Bill, and I know that Schefter tweeted out that an nameless NFL executive, there's tons of these nameless NFL executives that said that Bill is pulling the strings back here and he's masterminding some sort of great plan behind here. But I don't know. I think these guys are opting out because they have valid reasons to do so. If you asked Bill, what two players would he not like to lose? It would be Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower. Not from that defense. Anyway, because they're so pivotal. They're so pivotal, stopping everything up the middle for him. So if this is some kind of scam that he's running to try and recoup money, I think it's a risky one. But I think that it's not a designed play from the Patriots organization. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's just, as I said, it looked interesting, and the results looked very interesting, and they tend not to do things by accident.
I think maybe there's maybe one person there that may have been asked to opt out, or maybe given the option to give him an extra year to kind of think over his future, and that could be Marcus Cannon, because Marcus Cannon was in and out, wasn't sure whether he was going to come back this year, and he's a pivotal part of that offensive line for the Patriots. So maybe this suits him. Maybe he has another year to recuperate, try and figure out whether his body can keep going. Maybe we can figure out. I think he had some illnesses as well. I think he was a cancer survivor too. So maybe he can try and figure out what way his body is going to. Because I'm certain that he opted out on the high risk category. So, but I think I remember hearing that he was going to actually retire at the end of the season, regardless. He was going to give camp a go, and if it didn't work, he was going to retire. But now opting out, this probably gives him more time as well. Obviously, being in the high risk category as well, it would be smart. It's the smart move for him to opt out. But that could be maybe the only one that I could see being maybe a discussion that was had with the Patriots. But I think the rest of the guys maybe just just opted out because of their own personal reasons, which is absolutely fine.
Before we go, Neil, a couple of comings and goings and a few bits of news out of Berea. Kevin Rodgers coming in onto the team. What do we know about Kevin Rodgers?
Yeah, so that was quite a while ago. Like, that was almost directly after we last spoke about Myles Garrett's contract. Kevin Rodgers came in, and Kevin Rodgers has come in as a senior offensive assistant. And for me, having an old head to go with the young shoulders of Kevin Stefanski ain't a bad thing. And to have an old head that has a sense of familiarity with Kevin Stefanski is quite good too. Now, he's come in as a senior offensive assistant. And when we look at what he's done past, I suppose the one that really does stick out is he was Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks coach between 2006 and 2010. Now, if we need any help installing an offense, I think I'd like to have the guy who was the quarterbacks coach when Kevin Stefanski was learning the ropes down in Minnesota there too, to come in and help, because obviously verbiage and things like that would be quite similar. I know we talk about Stefanski coming from the Kubiak Shanahan tree, but there is a familiarity here, and this guy knows quarterbacks. He absolutely knows quarterbacks. He worked with Brett Favre when he was in Minnesota, and he brought Brett Favre to statistically one of his best seasons at the age of 40 in 2009. Threw for 4,200 yards and 33 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. So the thing that jumps off the page there is, who has Baker Mayfield been likened to more than any other quarterback? It's Brett Favre. And what has Baker Mayfield got a problem with? Interceptions. And what did this coach do for the aforementioned Brett Favre in his later years, in the autumn of his career, with regards to receptions? He kept those receptions down. So I think working with Alex Van Pelt, working with Kevin Stefanski, and the shorter time and the less kind of contact time that they're going to have with Baker, and the less contact time that Case Keenum is going to have with Baker, because remember, Case was brought in due to familiarity with verbiage, scheme, and so on, route patterns and stuff like that. But those two guys may never meet in the same room with the new COVID measures. So bringing in somebody like Kevin Rodgers could be a stroke of genius. Now, look, there are some bits and pieces here. He hasn't coached since 2016 when he was with William and Mary, and he was the offensive coordinator there. Last time he coached in the league was in 2010 for the Minnesota Vikings. But once again, having that old head, that type of mentor, that's somebody that Kevin Stefanski is familiar with. I'm okay with coaches surrounding themselves with safety blankets. I'm not okay with players, because at the end of the day, the player has to go out and play. The coach needs help in split situations to make decisions, to make calls on the sideline. So, like last year when Kevin Stefanski had Kubiak as an assistant, it was good to go to that old head for a bit of advice, and it worked well. Now he's going to be able to go to Kevin Rodgers, somebody he's familiar with and is familiar with him, and that's going to be his piece of advice. Kind of like Al Saunders was when he was here, albeit for Hugh Jackson, who didn't seem to take advice from anybody. But you sense that there's something different here from Stefanski, that he's willing to soak up information and soak up advice. And he's seen how his father, Ed, while being the figurehead for a sports organization, has had to reach out and take advice from everywhere. he's been brought up in this system of taking advice and almost respect your elders. Take your advice from people who are more experienced. And I think this is going to be something that at the end of the year, we might look back on and go, Jesus, remember that? Remember Baker came out the first couple of games and he was flying it. How did that happen? And I think that Kevin Rodgers could very well be the intermediary that might be that little bit of safety, I think, for both Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt, Case Keenum, and Baker Mayfield to try and make that whole relationship tick in this COVID-19 pandemic situation.
And as an interesting aside there, you mentioned Baker. Baker Mayfield has essentially disappeared from my radar for the last 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
And that's
looking,
no
saw a photo
thing.
of him. He's looking in good shape.
Yeah, I allowed he was going to come in. I think all the fat shaming might have got to him. I allowed he was going to come in trim and ready to rock and roll. But like, if we put 2 and 2 together and we say, right, Baker has dropped not all his media work or whatever, but I don't see him. Like I haven't seen him, So there's been nothing on Twitter, nothing in, since the whole Cheesecake Factory debacle. There's been nothing online. He has essentially disappeared. This has been like the off season we would have wanted for him,
Yeah.
But all the guys turning up in the coming weeks now, Neil, for training camp, and the Browns. I have to say, and I have to absolutely give it to the Browns. I watch a lot of in-house NFL produced content with regards to certain teams. Like I've watched some stuff that the Colts have produced because I have an interest in their front office there and how they do business. I've watched some stuff that the Eagles have done and just have an interest in how their organizations are run, And I think the Browns content that they put out on YouTube, the
Building the Browns?
The Building the Browns series, and any of the content they put out is absolutely fantastic, well produced, great little shows. I look forward to them with relish every time I see them. But the training camp live is going to be an experience for us this year, Neil. I've got to be honest, I'm a little bit excited for it.
I am too. I can't wait for it. Josh Cribbs and Zagura are going to knock it out of the park, I think, from that point of view. But for us, for me and you, this is fucking amazing. If you excuse my language, I've done a bit of swearing in the podcast, and that was my season 2020.
Sorry.
Yeah, my season 2020 kind of goal was maybe to cut down on the swearing, especially just on a daily level. But I'm really excited for it because we would never get a chance to go to camp, go and see camp, and we'd never get a chance to see a lot of the drills. Now you'd see it every so often, you'd see clips of it on YouTube and stuff, but to be able to see a practice live on YouTube, on the YouTube channel is going to be fantastic. I'm going to love it. I'm going to tune in, see what way things are going, and it's going to get me really excited for the coming year. And I for one can't wait.
Most definitely. And on that really positive note, Neil, this is where we bid adieu to the 2 Green Browns, and I just have to say it's been fantastic. The last year and a half, whatever we've been doing, but I have to say the stuff that we've got coming in the coming weeks, the content from both myself and Neil and all our new contributors who we're all going to get to meet over the coming weeks, very, very exciting stuff coming.
Yeah. I just want to say as well, guys, you don't have to go looking for the Cleveland Sports Collective. If you're already subscribed to the 2 Green Browns, it will automatically change over. It's going to be housed exactly where it is. So if you're subscribed to the 2 Green Browns at the moment, don't got to change your subscription. You don't got to unsubscribe or anything. Stay where you are, because it will just automatically change over from Monday to the Cleveland Sports Collective. So we're making it that easy for you. You don't even got to do anything. Just wait for it to pop up into your podcast feed.
Indeed. Thanks everyone for listening. Please follow us on Twitter, myself at JohnsCahill_IRL and Neil at 2 Green Browns. And go get following the Cleveland Sports Collective at Cle Sports Pod. And until next time, go